in Lake Neuchâtel, the largest lake located entirely in Switzerland, where Von Büren would develop watches not only for the most prestigious Swiss watch companies in the world, but also for his own independent brand. And in 1959, Squale was registered as the brand name we know today.
Monique, tell us a bit about your father. What was he like?
He was a good man, friendly, very happy to be alive and loving people of any kind.
And adventurous too.
Yes, he was. And he was very curious of everything new.
Yes, including diving.
That was very interesting for him, yes.
Yes.
Because it was new and he had to discover.
Amazing. And he encouraged you and your brother to
Yes,
go out.
he asked my brother and me if we didn't want to dive because he thought it would be a good thing for us to discover the diving.
Really? Just to do
Just
something?
to test and to see if we'd like it.
Fantastic. Tell us a bit about when you first went diving. What was it like in Neuchâtel?
In Neuchâtel it was the lake was quite dirty in those days, but it was very interesting. And the first time we dived, I saw a trumpet, I saw a bicycle, and it was really funny for me because I didn't know that there were so many things under the lake, but fishes and algae.
When someone was riding a bicycle playing a trumpet and fell in, perhaps. Amazing. And very cold, I should imagine.
It was quite cold, yes. Yeah. As soon as it was in spring, it begins to come better, but usually it's 10 degrees. But if you go to 10 or 20 meters, it's 4 degrees.
Yeah.
And it was wetsuits.
Eventually, you came to establish the Maison de Plongée.
Yes, because we had our material in old houses, and they destroyed the houses because they were too old. So we had to build a new house.
Uh-huh.
And it began with La Maison du Plongeur.
As you can see, Lake Neuchâtel is famed for its picturesque and panoramic views. But aside from its breathtaking exterior, it also has a maximum depth of 152 meters and relatively stable conditions, perfect for testing and experimenting with new timepieces. Sitting here, you get a sense of what it must have been like taking those first early steps with what was then groundbreaking and brand new technology, long before the invention of modern diving computers and, of course, quartz watches.
The state gave us a piece of land, and then we were looking for money to build a house.
And it became the epicenter of diving in Switzerland. I mean,
yes, it was the first.
You built it, but that then brought in, your father was at the vanguard of all that, but all the lots of other Swiss brands came in, and that's when it really became amazing.
The Von Büren family made history and set a precedent unseen by smaller independent brands by developing watches that rivaled the biggest names in the industry. Von Büren quickly recognized the importance of the minute hand when using it in conjunction with the dive timing bezel, and decided to make it as bright and visible as possible. It was here that the distinctive neon orange minute hand was born, a characteristic like many belonging to the dive watch that we take for granted today. It may seem simple to us now, but for dive watches of that era, it was revolutionary. Von Büren then introduced 3 types of watches that would become the backbone of the brand and a foundation that has continued to this very day. The renowned Squale 1521, the Squale 2002 with its unique push-to-unlock bezel, and most important of all, the aptly named Squale Master.
First produced in the late 1960s, the Squale Master was Squale's first 1,000-meter dive watch and the biggest breakthrough for the brand thus far. With its sleek, elegant curves, Bakelite bicolor rotating bezel, luminescence and screw-in crown to maintain its impressive depth rating, it achieved well-deserved recognition and praise as a brand worn by world champion freedivers and spearfishing athletes of the era.
The success of the Squale Master and the aforementioned collections would allow Squale to launch the brand on a greater commercial and global scale. Throughout the 1960s, Squale sponsored several international sports competitions. Due to their well-earned reputation for excellence, along with their recognition for reliability and safety, Squale watches were worn by many of the top divers and world record holders of the time, including Enzo Maiorca, Jacques Mayol, Jean Tapou, Juliana and Maria Treliani, and the Cuban national team, winners of the 1967 World Spearfishing Championship.
Mayor was also, he came to visit you, stay for
Yes,
for a while,
and we met him and he came here. Also, he was preparing one of his record, and he came in the chalet in the mountains here to make his yoga. And my father and me, we brought some food, and he was breathing and meditating. And then we made a long walk together, and then we left him there. And the next day we came, and again, and it was really beautiful.
The brand's success did not go unnoticed by the most prestigious watchmakers in the world, and Squale were once again hired to produce their watch cases. Take a look at a watch produced with a Squale case, and you will typically see the watch name brand at the 12 o'clock and the now iconic Squale shark logo printed at the 6 o'clock.
It was so desirable and highly regarded to have a watch case made by Squale that the unprecedented double logo on the dial became not only the mark of safety and reliability, but also a symbol of pride. Squale would go on to make timepieces for several elite military forces, including the Italian Air Force's Folgore Brigade and, most famously, the Marina Militare, the Italian Navy's diving corps.
Charles Von Büren's passion for diving eventually led him to participate in creating one of the most esteemed diving centres in Switzerland during the 1960s. The Centre de Recherche et d'Essais Dynamiques de Chantetti, CREDE, was launched in 1967 and provided a state-of-the-art environment in which to perform standardized testing for the watch industry, a capability that was unheard of at the time. Eventually, the centre became the Maison du Plongeur, and today the site operates as a restaurant that honours its past heritage, proudly displaying its history on a plaque outside. It was here that Von Büren held meetings with the leading Swiss dive watchmakers and assisted them in devising tests which were extensively carried out only a few metres away in the waters of Lake Neuchâtel. Their experiments tested watches to the very limits, as professional divers ultimately entrusted their lives to these timepieces. Aside from water resistance, depth ratings, quality and impermeability of the cases, their research included the effects of water and chemicals on a watch, how different materials behaved at varying temperatures or depths, the visibility of various designs and colours, and the ergonomics of the watch's features. These experiments were carried out in a real-world environment far beyond the limitations of a laboratory, and this style of research and development would later influence many larger brands and diving organizations to set up their own testing facilities, eventually resulting in the industry standards adopted by watch companies today.
He was working with some other people who had their brand, and they were always talking to make it better. So the better watch.
Yes, and also his father
best one
knew the knowledge from making diving watches, because he was one of the first watchmaker in making diving watches. So many companies asked him to make diving watches with their brand.
That's right.
The shark, the logo was a diver, real diver.
It was a good reference.
Yeah,
yes.
It was a good reference.
Yes, a point of pride, I think, for a lot
That's
of people.
right. Yeah.
It's because I understand that a lot of the manufacturing was done around here. What are some of the key locations?
It was all around here in the mountains and here.
The Chaux-de-Fonds.
It's
very close here, the center of watchmaking here in Switzerland. All the big companies are here, and there is the knowledge here. Huh?
Yes, they have a knowledge, because in winter, in the old days, all the farmers had to close and to do something else than farming, and so they were doing things on watches, building, putting the little pieces and sending them to the factory.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so it was everything kind of came from
all over here.
Yes.
From the neighborhood.
Your father used to give also the watches to professional diver, no? And
yes,
writing letters.
To test them here in France, in Italy, and the people they dived and they looked and they could say if the watch was a good one.
Because of course the Marina Militare.
Marina in Italy, also famous diver now, Mayol.
And Jacques Mayol and Enzo Mallorca were our friends, and they all had a Squale watch.
Neuchâtel is not only the birthplace of the modern dive watch as we know it, but also the ancestral home to the aristocratic Von Büren family for over 500 years. Charles Von Büren took direct inspiration from his family's heraldry. The crown found above the Squale shark logo was inspired by the crown in the Von Büren family's coat of arms. The letters VON represent the family name, and thus a link to Neuchâtel and Von Büren's noble heritage. Positioned directly above the shark logo, they convey the brand's mastery over the forces of nature represented by the apex predator. The crown is also a symbolic reminder of tradition, legitimacy, and divinity, as if to say that Charles Von Büren achieved his destiny, manifested in the watches that proudly display his signature logo today. Speaking with Monique Von Büren, one gets a true sense of her father's adventurous spirit and how it lives on today within her and the Squale brand.
You haven't lost your passion for diving. I understand you still. I think you said earlier you were diving just the other day somewhere. Is that right?
Yes. I began to dive when I was 14, and I went on and on until 10 days ago. I still dive, and I am very happy. I am 75.
Wonderful. That's incredible. So your father was right.
Yes, he was really right.
Wonderful.
I'm thankful.